So really the focus of my 5 to 7 minutes is on the British Museum and is really an attempt at an abbreviated snapshot of what we do and a comment on perhaps what is the purpose of museums in the 21st century, largely from the perspective as I am, as somebody actually who works on the Middle East. So what is the purpose of museums, and has that changed in the 21st century? I think it's self-evident that museums are, of course, repositories of rare, delicate, and precious objects which speak volumes about the times in which they were made. Our job as custodians is to make these collections intellectually and physically accessible to current and future generations, and very importantly, to continue to acquire contemporary objects that speak of their time, as well as the ancient objects, as the ancient objects did. Because these collections, it's very important to know this, are a resource for everyone, beyond the boundaries of country or nationality. The British Museum, I have to say, used to have the reputation of being a somewhat old and dusty place, known only for its mummies, but I think that has very much now changed. Can you move the next one? Thanks. So the British Museum has 6 million visitors every year, but its reach is far wider than that. And at the heart of what drives us, and the other museums in London were part of a sort of consortium, as it were, known as the World Collections Programme, is the belief that we are strong together and that we have a powerful role to play not only in sharing skills, but in terms of diplomacy and cultural relations. And it is indeed the case that cultural relations and channels of communications can and do remain open when political links falter. And I would cite here the Shah Abbas exhibition that we had 2 years ago at the British Museum, with loans successfully secured from Iran when political relationships were at their shakiest, and where we now have one of the treasures of the British Museum actually in Tehran, the Saras cylinder. And the Babylon exhibition that we had, which enabled us to focus, to become a forum for the discussion of the destruction of cultural heritage. Our director, Neil McGregor, has recorded all of last year this groundbreaking history of the world in 100 objects, which was listened to by literally millions of people in the UK, and which made people think about objects in a different way. So, next slide, please. So next year, we're going to be putting on a major exhibition on the Hajj, and we hope that we'll be able to explain and show the material culture that surrounds this remarkable phenomenon, which, as you know, 3 million people attend, and which we see on our TV screens every year, but which only if you're a Muslim can you know what this sacred event actually means. And we're going to be working with in a variety of ways with Muslim and other communities through schools, museums. We're entering into a relationship with Painting and Patronage, the organization funded by His Royal Highness Prince Khalid, Governor of Mecca. We're going to be working also with the magnificent team of the Journey to Mecca. I think you only discovered this today for the first time. And we're going to show beautiful objects from major collections and work by Saudi and other artists. Now, in times when, just in these last days, if you've been reading the British papers, our first Muslim cabinet minister, Baroness Warsi, has talked about endemic Islamophobia. What better way of showing the essence of Islam through an exhibition in the neutral space of the British Museum? Of course, the British Museum does other things. We're advising in Abu Dhabi on the Sheikh Zayed National Museum, so our relationships are spread very wide. But finally, I just wanted to, can I have the next slide, please? The key to the innovation and creativity process in museums, as indeed elsewhere, is the creation and development of partnerships and relationships. And here I just quickly want to mention what we're doing as regards modern and contemporary Middle Eastern art and why it's so incredibly important. So this is one of the most fascinating aspects of my work. And we have in our collection now about 200 artists from across the Middle East and North Africa. And our job is to represent these artists, to acquire more of them, and to make our collection accessible. And on the screen, you'll see 4 Saudi artists who are highlighted in our collection, whose work a few years ago was actually invisible in the West, but who, as a result of exposure and energy, are now very well known, and who are acting as trailblazers. And I just want to mention here, perhaps, the role of the British Museum in acquiring the work of Ahmad Matar, whose work you can see on the top left there. I think it's true to say that we were the first non-Middle Eastern institution to acquire his work, and it provided him with a degree of support at a crucial time, particularly when we included his work in our exhibition Worded to Art, which was a result of a particular partnership with Dubai Holding, put together for us by our advisor on the project and one of the speakers at this conference, Saib Aigner. and the highly innovative Create and Inspire program initiated by Sagia within partnership with Edge of Arabia, which you can see back there, some of the finalists, is an art competition which we're going to be hearing more about, which drew hundreds of competitors across the kingdom. And I was very honored to be able to participate in that, and really blown away by the depth of creativity that there is here in the kingdom. So really, just in conclusion, how can museums continue to acquire and grow these collections? Well, the key, as in everything we do, is in partnerships. I mean, this is particularly at a time when budgets are being cut, certainly in the UK and probably all around the world. And we are utterly dependent on the generosity of individuals who believe in helping us with acquisitions. But a major difficulty we have in the UK as regards attracting major donors is the combination of a common misconception that as a largely public-funded institution, we get a lot of public money, and the current regulations as regards benefits that can be given in return for donations, and the lack of what we can call a philanthropic culture, which certainly exists in the States, which we don't have in the UK. So really, in order to promote creativity, when funding in the cultural sector is so short, the key is really to be working across institutions, public, private, individuals, absolutely making the most of what we actually have, and as an institution being really clear and confident about what the purpose of that institution actually is. Thank you.
Great. If I